Previously on the Game On podcast.
So then, as we said about, you've ended up, you're now a Port player. As we said, you should have been a Woodville player. Woodville should have had you and Greg Anderson. What a stuff up. We did speak briefly about that yesterday.
Yep.
So your first league thing, and then you'd had, let's say, probably a learning experience through Russell, and you admit yourself that you made a mistake there. And then let's just say John Cale and the influence of John Cale on you, and John Cale's ability to sell that you were invincible to you guys. And for me, I actually appreciate that more now, because Nord, for mine, finally won a premiership last year when they were nowhere near the best side. And I reckon John Cale got 11 out of 10 out of the Port side for all those years, effectively.
Yeah, I think you're right, Malcolm, in regards to Jack's influence. He just had an ability to make each and every one of us that needed to, play well. I thought he got not the best out of us, he got better out of us. So,
yeah.
That was the thing. You might have had a limit on yourself, but Jack had no limits, and he loved talking about no limits, whether that be on the team, whether it be on the season, whether it be on you as an individual. He just always used to speak about, why limit yourself? Why put a cap on it? And I used to love that language. And I used to think, oh, he's right. And, and he never feared things. And, I've heard other people say, oh, you've got to be careful of this, or this might happen, or whatever. He never, ever tempted the bad fate, if you like. He always tempted the opportunity, the chance to be the best. And he always made sure that you were heading in that direction. So that's what I think I loved about him, because it gave all of us that much confidence. And I saw him talk to players on a Thursday night when, they felt like they should have been in selection, and they might go and front him, and, we're all sitting in the showers or the bath or whatever. And I saw him handle it, and I thought to myself, you hear a lot of people when coaches say, you just got to be honest, you got to be truthful and all the rest of it. I saw Jack probably at times and I've seen coaches talk to players and tell them the truth.
Yep. And
they walk away with that head down. I see Jack say things like, can't believe how close you are. I can't believe how close what you're doing at the moment and how you're doing this. Is, another one like that, and I reckon you're in. And they'd walk away, and I could tell they're sort of half thinking, is it the truth or isn't it? But they're going, I think I'm a chance. If you think you're a chance, you're going to play well. And we had some depth, and it's not easy, you'd know probably through history, to win the reserves and the league grand final, but you want them up there as close as that can be.
Yep.
And we had in our run of premierships, we had two occasions where the reserves won the flag, and we had another two where they were runner-up. So you sort of go, that method worked because everybody believed that they were an opportunist, that they got this chance. And it happened on a couple of occasions where guys got injured or hurt, or, Rowan Smith had his jaw broken and things like that, and guys come into the team that weren't in there the week before, and they're playing flags.
Sportscast SA presents Game On. Game On. South Australians' destination for everything sports. Local, national, and international sports. AFL football, soccer, basketball, golf, baseball, tennis, cricket, and any other sports played in this wide world. And we're going to have a blast doing it. So sit back, relax, and let's do this thing. Welcome to Game On.
Welcome to Game On. My name's Pete, once again, joined by Malcolm and Timmy G. We finally caught up with him for part 2 of his interview, and he let us in on a few more exploits during his day. And wasn't it great that he talked about John Cale and how he got the most out of his players?
No, he was fantastic. It was like Dame Nellie Nelbert to finally try and get hold of him to organise that. It was a bit of fun, but we finally got there, and yeah, he's just honest. Great memory too, Tim. Actually, Jeff Wilson made that point, messaged me, said he loves how his Tim's attention to detail. So, yeah, no, he was fantastic.
And obviously Port Adelaide were pretty successful during that period, and like we said, they got leather poisoning during those years. But no, we thank Timmy again, and as per usual, if you want to go back and listen to those episodes, please do so via your listening app.
Around the grounds.
All right, we're going to have a look at the cricket, both men's and women's, the NRL State of Origin, but we're going to kick off today with the AFL round 15 completed. Any surprises there? Obviously, the bye rounds are all finished now, and you know we're sort of into the home stretch.
Oh, look, probably the surprise was, being honest, Adelaide getting so close.
Yep.
And look, on the carry-on of the Adelaide game, yes, they were unlucky, and there was no doubt whatsoever they didn't get the rub of the green umpiring-wise, which they did in the game at Adelaide Oval.
Yes.
But it is a pet hate, and I will go on about it till the day I die, the unprofessionalism of a multi-billion-dollar industry. It is the player's job. It's not their bit of fun. Mm-hmm. It's a kick and catch, and it did look like that Rory Sloane did not know and understand the rule when you grab a player, when you've given the ball off. It is different than blocking, which I think is ridiculous, the rule.
Yep.
But people to say, oh, why didn't he pay it on the Malira block? Well, because that's not the ruddy rule.
Yep.
The law of the game.
Yep.
And you can say, oh, the umpire should have paid it. You can't invent what you think should happen. And then the carry on with the one at the end, I was really glad with Matthew Nix in terms of on the couch where he said, "No, that wouldn't have been paid 9 times out of 10. It happened that quick. Mm-hmm. That, yes, I do go on and on about the umpire's positioning, and I would shoot the person involved in umpiring who's got the umpires out by the boundary line, and it's stuffed it or they're positioning up. Mm-hmm. Umpires are privately will say it. They're not allowed to say it publicly.
Yep.
We thought the 4 umpiring that it would revert to the 2 umpiring thing, repositioning and rechangeover, but it hasn't. The AFL haven't got the balls to admit the 4 umpiring thing has been a dismal failure and go back to 3.
Yep. Is it a case of that they're still in some teething problems? I know we've talked about it previously. It looked on this occasion that there were 3 umpires within a reasonable viewing area of that incident. Yes, it did happen in real time, and I suppose when you look at it in real time, it was a 50-50 ball as far as whether the free kick was there or not in real time.
Yeah.
When you slow it down, you go, well, yeah, definitely got it high.
Exactly.
But the umpires don't have the benefit of going back and watching that.
Look, I think out of that one, that the umpire just had to be in the perfect step in positioning.
Yes.
And if 1 or 2 steps out, you don't see it.
Yep.
And I think they all looked at each other because when Adelaide started to carry players going on at the end, we're going, well, hang on, what are you going on about?
Yes.
And, so out of that, look, I think there was more the non-paid free kick to Laird earlier.
Yes.
That's an umpiring error, way more than the last one.
Look, both teams get it. It is football. We understand it.
It's a unique sport in the world.
Yes.
It's actually a stupid sport in terms of it's the only sport where, one, an umpire's got to perfect a skill called bouncing, which has got nothing to do with the game, which is bloody stupid and it should just be thrown up all the time. Yep. But then a reasonable amount of time to get rid of the ball. What's a reasonable amount of time? Some people might view that as 5 hours. Some people view it as 0.01 of a second. So it's an incredibly unique sport to umpire. Now, my other beef
and you've got 4 individuals doing it. That's the other thing.
Which 3 doesn't work, let alone 4.
Yep.
The other point is how few of them have played adult football. Now, I still maintain it's a game you must have played
the nuances
to umpire.
Yep.
You don't have to have played at the elite level.
Yep.
You play against Kilburn at Kilburn, Paraleo at all that. You know what's going on.
Yep.
And I think that's a big part of it. There's a real lack of footy nous and feel for the game out there. And I listen to Ray Chamberlain being interviewed, and I shake my head in disbelief at some of the things he says.
Absolutely. Mate, we'll go back to Thursday night, looking at the Geelong-Melbourne game. A little bit of a surprise from that point of view.
Yeah, well, especially since, Dangerfield wasn't playing. When Cameron gets injured in the first 5 to 10 minutes.
Now, I wanted to talk about
Yes.
that. Now, obviously, we talk about concussion and injuries and everything. If Gary Rowan is a Melbourne player, he gets rubbed out for 2 or
correct.
3 weeks. Isn't it funny how in this sport, and you did allude to it just a minute ago about how silly it is and how you're trying to perfect it, is that you can get the same result from your own player, and yet your own player doesn't get suspended.
Yeah.
It's just one of those weird ones.
It is one of those weird things out of that, but people saying he should have been reported. No, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, no, I don't agree with it either. But I'm just saying it's very interesting that you can get the same result as what an opposition player. Opposition gets weeks, and you don't get weeks. Anyway, but Geelong getting over the line by 15 points there. We sort of thought that being down in GMHBA Stadium.
I just thought with the Geelong outs and that, and
they might struggle a little bit.
Yeah, and then Melbourne 7 points up at 3/4 time and seem to have the momentum. So it's a huge win, and it may be a win which hurts Adelaide more than anyone else in the end.
Absolutely. St Kilda losing to the Brisbane Lions at Marvel Stadium there.
Yeah, Brisbane just a bit too good, a bit too polished.
They just seem to have a lot of the ball at times. I remember watching it, and the ball was just constantly being fed to that forward line.
It's quite bizarre, really, that St Kilda, I still think their list is still similar to what it's always been. Even back to their Hallican day, their team in 97, where the Crows won that, was that the Crows' last 5 were way better than St Kilda's last 5. And I still sort of think that's the problem with St Kilda at the moment. I still think their players right at the bottom just aren't up to it, and that really...
Now they have had a lot. They have had a lot of injuries.
Oh look,
so
I think they've overachieved.
That's what I was
overachieved this
to.
year, big time.
Yeah. So does that mean that Ross Lyons got the most out of St Kilda?
I think so.
Yep.
For what they've got.
I mean, they seem to be doing what Adelaide are doing: 1 win, 1 loss, 1 win, 1 loss, which is quite frustrating. But you're right. But getting game time into those players that are not quite up to speed. And achieving what they've been achieving.
And they've got the bye this week. They play West Coast.
Oh, well, then another chance to throw a few youngsters in there for some experience. All right, we move on to Saturday, mates. We haven't seen this for a long time, but a team scoring over 200 points. Sydney defeating West Coast.
Oh, look, West Coast for mine. Adam Simpson should have gone by now. They should have got mutually separated. If you're going to lose... go down fighting, and West Coast aren't at the moment. They're not. The lack of effort, the lack of work rate, they look like they're desperately playing for the end of the season now. Mm-hmm. They're the worst side in the competition since Fitzroy at the end, and Fitzroy had a hell of a lot more reason than what West Coast have got. It's quite staggering, and look, their list has been very poorly managed. You've got came out yesterday in terms of the players. You've got the word has it, Natanui, McGovern on $1 million, Gaff on 850. Their list is just so shockingly balanced. And the injuries, look, I think they're going to be down. West Coast are going to be down for a fair while.
Now, to think that West Coast played in the grand final 5 years ago, this is, you look at teams like Brisbane, you look at Adelaide to a certain degree back in the 90s, Richmond.
Similar to Adelaide
Brisbane,
since 17, though.
Yes, agreed. In that, they have sustained success for a couple of years. Melbourne, the Bulldogs have been around the mark. Yeah. Yes, they did bottom out a little bit for one season, but right back up there. For West Coast to fall away this far.
And this far.
It does... I don't blame Adam Simpson for that. I blame their list management for that, which I know he's a part of, but I do agree that they've got their fitness wrong since the COVID.
Oh, no doubt about that.
They've got their management of their list. They obviously bought into these players.
Kelly, they threw the dice.
Yes.
Gave up way too much for him. That's really hurt him. Yep. But at the moment, they are an absolute Paul Basket case.
Below 50% as well as far as percentage go, and we haven't seen that since, like you said, the Fitzroy days, which is just staggering to think. And West Coast are in a two-team town like Adelaide and Port Adelaide are, and, when things aren't going right, it just compounds even more. And to have a 200-point or 171-point deficit and a 200-point scored against you... a little bit of a worry.
So that's 4 of their last 6 games they've lost by over 100 points. That's just ridiculous.
Where does that leave them as far as priority picks, do you think?
It'll be interesting. It comes over 3 years, so not just the one. So last year, they're going to be around the mark for it, yeah. And
What about trade value? We talked about those players that are on $1 million contracts. Is there a chance that maybe one or two of them might come out and they pay part of their salary to another team just to free things up?
I think they'll attempt to do that, but honestly, what club would want Natanui, who hasn't played a game, McGovern, who's just always injured.
So stable for a lot of his career, but then in the last two or three years, been very, very absent.
Shuey, Hearn. I don't think you're going to get anything for him.
Shuey and Hearn were contemplating retiring 2 years ago, so they have gone on probably a little bit longer.
Yeah.
All right, we'll leave that one as it is, and we'll keep watching that one. Fremantle defeating Essendon by 32 points over in Perth there.
Probably a little bit of a surprise how much Fremantle controlled the game. Really from about 5 minutes in the second quarter, they had the game well and truly under control. I'm a bit of a fan of Jai Amos. I like him. He's footy smarts, gets to the right spot, reads it pretty well off hands as well, so he's not just the mark kick. I reckon he's a real chance to take that next step. Yeah,
look, for me, Fremantle, if St Kilda are a little bit of the Jekyll and Hyde, I think Fremantle are definitely the Jekyll and Hyde after going down to GWS by 70 points the week before. But after playing 3 or 4, maybe 5 good weeks in a row there, all of a sudden they were somewhat back to normal. And like you said, they controlled the ball beautifully.
Yeah.
Always tough for Essendon travelling over to Perth, but Essendon have travelled well in the past.
Yeah, and Fremantle the week before were abysmal against GWS. So,
Jekyll and Hyde. Yeah. They're my Jekyll and Hyde for the year.
Fair point.
All right, we move on. We did talk briefly about the Adelaide-Collingwood game as far as the umpiring go, but the game itself was fantastic. It was very finals-like, especially in that sort of third quarter, running through to the middle of the last quarter. It was on for young and old. Yeah,
no, there was no doubt about that. And, Taylor Walker doing the job again, 33 years old and arguably the best forward in the game at the moment.
Leading the Coleman at round 15. The back six for Adelaide I thought stood up quite well, considering we consider them as no-names as far as, they're only less than 100 games for most of those players down there. No Duday playing as well. They've really found somebody with hinge and also Worrell.
Yeah, Worrell and Murray. Murray for mine is a dark chance for the All-Australian squad of 40. He's had a very good, consistent year.
Yep.
But looks awkward and he always worries you. Geez, I'm not sure.
But he reminds me a little bit of Rutten.
That was a little bit like that. More polished than Butts. Okay. I've got to be fair there.
No, just that movement and the way that he moves a little bit. It just gets that feeling that he's a little bit like Rutten. A little bit.
Yeah. That's fine.
Personal opinion, mate.
That's right. Exactly. That's what we're here for.
We can agree to disagree on that one. But you're right. I think Murray and Butts definitely are the key to Adelaide's backlines doing as well as they have. And then we also know about their forward line, Rankin, Rochelle, and they really got going in that third quarter. And to kick 7 goals pretty much straight on Collingwood was a pretty fair effort.
Yeah, they dominated that third quarter. Yeah.
It was like they were playing possessed.
I wish the third quarter had gone for a couple of minutes longer.
Yes, absolutely. They were on fire. All right, and then we move on to the Suns v. the Hawks.
Yeah,
67 points, which was surprising but not surprising.
No, I think Sicily is just so important for them. And I do think on this one, Sicily was unlucky.
Yep.
The game where he missed against Port, I would have loved to have grabbed him and got him against the Lockers and belted shit out of him to say, you're the captain of the club, how about not being an idiot?
Yes.
This last one, I think he's dead set unlucky.
Absolutely. And obviously the Suns are trying to push for their first final series. They certainly put the foot down, and they've done so well without Took Miller as well. That's the most surprising part. He seemed to be the key for them. He goes out injured, and all of a sudden everyone else has stepped up and given an extra 5%, and it's paid dividends.
And having seen their 3 people they'll pick up out of their academy,
exciting times.
Young Walter, and that for next year, I'm not a person who bets on footy, but I'm going to see what odds they are to make the 8 next year.
Yep, absolutely. Speaking of Gold Coast, again, it keeps rearing its ugly head. Stuart Dew, do you think he'll remain coach next year, considering that Damien Hardwick's come out today or a couple of days ago and sort of said, look, I'm sort of missing the coaching side of it. Is it a bit of a slap in the face to Richmond, or did he need to actually step back to understand that he still wants to be involved?
Yeah, maybe. I also wonder if he just decided, hey, I've got as much out of this one as I can. It's time.
Mm-hmm. We did talk about this a couple of months ago, wonder if there's going to be a sort of a trade or a domino effect, that maybe Hardwick comes to Port and Hinkley goes to the Gold Coast, or vice versa. It's going to be an interesting watch, that's for sure. The buys for round 15, the remainder of round 15 were Carlton, North Melbourne, Port Adelaide, the Bulldogs, Giants and Richmond. All right, we've seen the statistics out of the bye. Teams coming off the bye, how's that going to affect things this week?
Big game, isn't it? Essendon, Port, therefore.
Absolutely. All right, we'll go through the first one. Yep. Thursday night, Richmond v the Brisbane Lions up at the Gabba.
Gabba, yeah. Because it's at the Gabba, I'll go for Brisbane.
Also Richmond coming off the bye.
Yeah, but Richmond also have hit a bit of form. Prestia out, though, with a calf injury is a big out for Richmond. So, yeah.
Marlon Pickett looks like he might be playing. Interesting call considering the situation that's going on. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out, whether that's just he's training well, we might pick him, but then they don't. We'll see what happens. Yeah. All right, we move on. Sydney v Geelong at the SCG. This one, grand final rematch, of course. Big game for both teams, isn't it?
Huge
considering
game.
The 8 is in reach of both teams now.
Cameron out. I don't think Dangerfield will play.
He'll declare himself fit, but I don't think the medical staff will let him play. Yeah. That's where I see it falling at the moment.
I suspect, look, it's a toss of the coin because Sydney have had a bye last week. I think it's an atrocious preparation, so I wouldn't be surprised for Geelong to get up. But the old if in doubt and ruled out on this one, I'll go for the home side.
Would have gained some form out of playing West Coast. Gained some confidence out of playing West Coast last week.
Bit of false confidence, though.
Well, and we sort of thought that with Adelaide playing West Coast before the bye, there was talk here, obviously, in Adelaide that, hey, don't get ahead of yourself. It was only West Coast, but they really went out there and matched it. So
true.
This could be a scrappy affair, but who knows on that one there. Sydney up in Sydney. Adelaide v North Melbourne at the Adelaide Oval.
You've obviously got to go for Adelaide. Hopefully they don't have a mental letdown after the big thing, but they should win.
I think, Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval seemed to grow another leg, but I don't think that their mental lapse after basically emptying the tank against Collingwood will affect them too much. I still see enough hunger there that Adelaide are going to go on with the job. And hopefully they do it with a little bit of percentage because they're going to need it if things get a little bit tight around the bottom of that 8 there as well.
Yep.
All right, we move on. The Western Bulldogs v Fremantle at Marvel Stadium.
Another big game.
It is in the scheme of things, isn't it?
Jones out for Western Bulldogs is a big out. So therefore they probably haven't got their ideal matchup for Amos. But again, because it's in Melbourne, I'll go Western Bulldogs, but Fremantle did beat them last year there. So it's a toss of the coin.
It's the Jekyll and Hyde, like I mentioned earlier, of Fremantle. Which one turns up?
And hopefully James Aish comes up.
They're still recovering from that hit a few weeks ago.
Yeah, hopefully might find out a bit more later in the day on that one.
Yep.
We will give the Aish name a mention at the end of our show.
Absolutely, we will. The Suns v Collingwood at Heritage Bank Stadium. This is a huge game for the Suns.
Big game for the Suns. Look, you've got to tip Collingwood because it's just silly not to.
Yep.
But I give the Suns a huge chance.
Well, just looking and gamble responsibly, looking at the betting odds here, they're not that far apart, actually. $1.61 v $2.32. I mean, in punting terms, that's probably enough of a margin, but it's not like the Adelaide North Melbourne where it's $1.10 v $7. So, as we said, gamble responsibly. So, the punters are sort of giving the Gold Coast a little bit of a chance, but you're right, you can't tip against Collingwood at the moment. We move on to one of the matches of the round that I am interested in quite a lot, actually, is Essendon v Port Adelaide at the MCG.
Look, while you've got to tip Port, I really reckon this is the toss of the coin job. It's a huge game in the scheme of things.
So I look at it. This is my way of looking at it. You look at it from 2 points of view. One, the bye hasn't served anybody any good the round after.
Yep.
But I also look at Essendon. Now, the team that generally plays in Perth the week after struggles as well. So you're sort of in a
domino effect.
Absolutely.
There, yeah. So
you would have to pick Port Adelaide, but you can't discount Essendon either because they can turn it on just as quickly as well.
Yeah, toss the coin. I just can't go past Butters, Rosie, Horn Francis.
Yep.
So,
yeah, I think Port Adelaide as well on that one. All right, we move on to Sunday, Hawthorn v Carlton.
without Sicily, I'll go Carlton.
Yeah, I think you have to go Carlton as well. Again, they won the week before the bye. Did it give them some confidence? Maybe. Yeah, toss of the coin, but yeah, Carlton you have to pick. All right, Melbourne v the Giants. Up in Northern Territory there.
So it's neutral venue.
Mm-hmm.
Melbourne, considering they've lost last week, I would think they'll rebound and come back. But
do they take both tools, considering they're obviously playing up in the territory there? It isn't a night game; it is a day game, 2:50. Do they stick with the Grundy-Gawn combination for this week?
I think they will. I think they're committed to it. So yeah, it's
the Giants have been impressive this year, considering.
Yeah, and again a bit up and down, hot and
cold.
miss.
Yep.
But yeah, look. Yeah, toss the coin, real toss the coin, and a big game.
Huge game. You'd think Melbourne but
yeah.
I'm still a fan of what GWS have been doing this year, and mentioned it 3 or 4 weeks ago that they have been the surprise packet. That just their effort's fantastic, and Adam Kingsley's got them really firing. He only needs a couple of stars or a couple of young academy talents to come through, and they could be up around the mark as well. So, and then we finish off with the West Coast v St Kilda at Optus. Do we see them bucking the trend?
No. Next point.
All right, that is the round 16 games for this week. All right, while we're still on the AFL, mate, the AFL Hall of Fame was commissioned last night. One of our previous guests, Michael Aish, was an inductee.
Yes, and we did ring him as I got to your place and congratulate him. And I messaged Aishi last night, and as Michael always does, always replies to everything. And it was at 2:52 a.m. he replied. So it's a fair effort that he was up, and an awesome speech. I'm sure I'll have a chat to Pam about that at some stage. Look, just wrapped. As an Nord man, I still think the Nord order should have been Michael Taylor first in terms of he played further back, then Aish, then Macca, and we could have put a bit more pressure on Macca. Look,
I think it'll get there eventually. It's just
I think he's knocked it back now. I don't reckon they'll offer it again, and I don't think they should. Right. You know, I think you had your chance. I think it was ridiculous what he did. Absolutely bizarre and pig-headed and just not thinking. Going, it's the AFL. No, Gary, it's the Australian Football League. Completely different. He should have shown respect to his own club, his own teammates, the opposition players, and the SANFL. Move on.
Might be one of the only times that we clip Macca for his career, but you're right. All right, and some other inductees, Mark Williams, true stalwart of the game, obviously taking Port Adelaide to their inaugural premiership. It's
probably almost a little bit of a combination of one there as a player, coach, the whole dice, because he was a good player, but I don't reckon he, purely as a player, you'd have Mark in the Australian Football Hall of Fame.
But what he's done for football.
Overall, well and truly.
Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bartell, Jimmy Bartell, Sam Mitchell, Corey Enright, and then Bruce McAvaney. Fantastic that Bruce McAvaney makes the Hall of Fame. I mean, he was the voice of football for 30 years, 40 years, really. At the
commentated the SANFL to start with.
Yes,
you know,
did his
started
apprenticeship.
On greyhounds and that sort of thing on the right. Yeah, look, and also Tom Lay.
I was going to allude into that. Yep,
with Tom Lay, Nick Haynes and the North Adelaide guy. Nick Haynes, North Adelaide historian, massively respected. North have really pushed for him for a long time because it's so far back. You don't really. It's not like those of us around have seen Aish McIntosh.
Yes.
So come on, that's farcical, and it is farcical. They both should have been in it ages ago.
Yep.
So should Neville Roberts.
Yep.
Out of that with Lay, because he gets dismissed back then, but also it's his record's pretty incredible. It's a Magarey medal, 4 best and fairest, dual premiership coach at Nord. He's a premiership coach at Nord as well. Mm-hmm. Overdue. You just sort of wish that had happened ages ago because his granddaughter there gets accepted, which is great.
Yes,
but you wish it had happened a while back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're right. You can't ignore those facts. That's really what it gets down to. And those facts are, pretty damning when it comes to Premiership coach and Magarey medals. So we congratulate all the inductees, and obviously they've had a big night and are probably continuing a little bit on today, and so they should. They've earned it.
Well, actually did pretty well to answer his phone and be up and about, considering when he replied to the message.
Absolutely. Just having a quick look also at the Rising Star. Do we still think that Sheasel's probably the winner there so far at the moment, or Ashcroft?
Yeah, I think it's line ball, and I think Max Michaelani should be getting more love and respect.
This is what I was going to allude to.
Because he's playing as a defender, people realise, and he's had very few goals kicked on him overall. He's had a great year.
Yeah, he held Charlie Curnow to nothing against Brisbane here in Adelaide.
And in the end, Cameron kicked for that game, but a couple of them weren't on
him directly.
On him when it was the changeover and all that. He's had a great year. So I think he should be getting more love. But as we know, defenders seemingly at any award don't get it.
Agreed. And Ashcroft being around the ball and being dominant there for Brisbane and slotting into their system is always going to be under the nose. And you look at Dacos and you look at Ashcroft and you go, wow, 2 stars of the future that are going to be there for the game for the next 10, 12 years.
No doubt about that.
All right, we move on to the SANFL, mate. We had 2 games to complete round 10. The Tigers defeating West Adelaide.
Yeah, did what they had to do. It's probably the best way to describe that. Just continue on their merry way at the moment.
Absolutely. And Adelaide defeating South Adelaide in the final game of round 10. Adelaide are flying at the moment, and South Adelaide weren't able to contain them.
Yeah, the game was over pretty early. Adelaide dominated, kicked 6-7 in the first quarter. The game was really probably over then. So, yeah, again, they did what they had to do.
All right, we move on to round 11. The Eagles, Woodville West Torrens v South Adelaide.
Yeah, I'll go Woodville West Torrens.
Port Adelaide v West Adelaide.
I'll go Port.
I think Port are flying at the moment. I can't tip against them, and they've just moved into the top 5 as well. Glenelg v Centrals. This one's going to be a good game.
Yeah, it's at Glenelg, though.
It is at Glenelg.
Yeah, I'll go the base. I'll go the base.
North Adelaide v Adelaide.
I'll go Adelaide.
I'll go Adelaide, but the Roosters just stumbling a little bit at the moment. Expect them to be a little bit better than what they have been showing. But again, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and North Adelaide will be there around the top 5 coming into the season. And probably the biggest game of the round is Sturt v Norwood.
It is huge game.
Huge ramifications for both teams, really. Sturt win, they pretty much will sew up top spot again. Norwood win, they're only a game out of the 5.
Yeah, look, it is a huge game, and I'll obviously go on Sunday, but you've got to tip Sturt at Unley. But Norwood have a reasonable record at Unley, so it's actually been ironic. The last few years, it's almost been Norwood have won at Unley and Sturt have won at Parade.
Yeah.
So
maybe it's a good time that we're playing at Unley Oval, maybe.
Yeah, but I think Sturt will just... I think Sturt bat a bit deeper.
Yep.
So
Norwood winning the last 2 gives them a little bit of confidence.
It does.
Having these bye rounds, split rounds, state games, there's just never really any momentum that you can sort of grab at the moment. And you have 2 good wins. You want to keep going. You want to keep playing. And they had the weekend off. So, yeah, I think Sturt and Unley are probably going to get the chocolates on this occasion, but I hope Norwood give them a hell of a go, a hell of a shake, that's for sure. Yeah,
and looking forward to hopefully seeing Liam Robinson play a league game while I'm not doing the scoreboard. So
that'd be great.
Be able to watch a bit more attentively him. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Watch him out on the ground one-on-one. All right, mate, we move on
and he'll hear me. Don't worry about that. Yes.
We move on to tennis, mate. Wimbledon is only a couple of days away now. Dimonor playing against Alcaraz at Queen's and coming runner-up on this occasion. But gee, it was a fantastic game.
Yeah, it was a good man. It was a good game, a good match. So, yeah, look, he is our best chance. You can't see him winning it.
No.
But hopefully he goes to the second week.
Yep. Draw could open up, which
you
can happen on occasions. He's really just got to get past that first couple of rounds, which are obviously the tougher of the rounds, and then you sort of know what you're up against as the games go on. But Jason Kubler wins his first grass court title and has now hit a career high of 74.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting. He's on a bit of momentum to see how he goes.
Absolutely. James Duckworth wins his first round of qualifiers as well. So, there's Australians doing some good things. Unfortunately, Tanasi Kokonakis actually lost his first round of qualifying. Now, just to let the listeners in, he's actually ranked inside the top 100, which actually gains him automatically qualification to the main draw of Wimbledon. But that only came after he made the third or fourth round of the French Open, and the rankings came out after the draw was actually set for Wimbledon, which means he had to go through qualifying. He actually lost his first round, so now his only chance of probably getting in is getting a wild card via the All England Club.
So we can hope. So we'll just wait and see on that.
I think if he gets in, he'll do okay. He generally does. I think it was a bit of a surprise. I did look at the statistics for his match that he did lose. There wasn't too much in it as far as break points, serving percentage, points overall won. So I think Australia does have reciprocal rights there, and he's probably a very good chance of getting a wild card.
We will wait and see. That's all we can do on that one.
There were 6 women and 5 men in the qualifying for Wimbledon this year. So good luck to those ladies and gentlemen. We'll see how we go. All right, mate, we'll take a quick break. Once we come back from the break, we'll have a big in-depth look at the cricket.
You're listening to the Game On podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
All right, mate. Cricket. Australia wins the first test in England. Fire away.
Yeah, it's been interesting in England's reaction. So they feel like they won. So we can actually have breaking news here now, Pete, that Pete Myers and I have decided that therefore we're doing the scoreboard, that we believe that Nord should win every game at the parade. So we've decided we're going to make up the scores for the scoreboard. So breaking news, yeah. That's ridiculous. We feel like we won. Well, hang on. Do we know that Cummins and Lyon may have put on another 100? It was just weird.
Is there comments based around the Bazball, as in they sort of got the game on their terms? They feel like they were confident enough to maybe win the game, but really at the end of the day they didn't.
Yeah, I'm just very happy that Bairstow's continuing to be their wicket keeper. Yeah.
Declaring on the first day was
ridiculous.
Probably their biggest mistake there.
For mine, that was just crazy. What do we want? What do you want to do in sport? The exact opposite of what the opposition wants you to do. Well, I'll give you the big tip. When they declared, the Australians were walking off high-fiving each other. It was crazy.
It was get the party cake out in the change rooms and let's enjoy it. Travis Head once again really showing his worth. Probably a little bit of disappointment. It's probably Labuschagne. I thought he'd do a little bit better than what he has been doing.
Yeah, with Labuschagne,
they do come and go. I know, I understand.
It's also a bit crazy where the amount of times he's been dropped in Test cricket and all that. He's had the rub of the green. He's due for some bad luck, well and truly. Yep. Now, it was average, his footwork. He's off broad. That was well outside off stump. Should have been let go. He got his foot in the, not aware of where his off stump was. Yes. Batting coach has come out and said, we're working on that. Let's wait and see. Look, Travis got out to Moen twice, which that was disappointing. Yep. Second innings was a reasonable ball, but Travis's technique wasn't great in the second innings. And the first one, he let the bottom hand come into it too much where it should have kept going straight, what he had been doing. So, look, Alex Carey got a good one from Anderson in the first innings. Yep.
But Usman Khawaja, really, you can't go past it.
Probably the only thing Kez did wrong in the game was he'd been dropped already by Root on a caught and bowled. well, let's either get down the track and go dead straight or along the ground.
Yep.
The fact he'd already been dropped the court and bowled and then get out that same way, considering his reverse sweeping way of getting it, that's where I want to see Kez think his way a bit more through something. His keeping was fantastic.
Oh, was it ever? I mean, you compare players against opposition players. I mean,
and that was the difference.
It was.
That was the game changer. Like, none of this we feel like we won. Alex Carey clearly outkept David Bairstow. There's the difference.
Absolutely.
There, why not actually be honest?
Absolutely. Do we see Bairstow keeping in this second test coming up?
Well, he's already been picked. They didn't pick folks. They've picked their side. They've brought in Tongue. Josh Tongue comes into their 11, who made his debut against Ireland and got a 5 for against Ireland, so it's hard really to gauge. But he comes in for Moen, so Root is playing as their sole spinner. So that's an interesting call.
Considering it's quite a green top as well at this stage.
So you'd think, therefore, that's why they've done it.
Yep.
And I think, so therefore, I'll actually be surprised if Australia don't bat first tonight either way.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, you've just led me into my next point. What do we expect from the second test? Do we expect Bazball to continue, or do we expect a little bit more restraint from England, or do we see Australia take the attack up to England?
I think they've committed. England have almost committed themselves to play this way. Let's also go through a lot of their success with it was batting second, and the decks have become pretty flat, and they managed to chase down some big scores. So I think that's the way they'll go. Look, and let's also, it was quite bizarre. We were actually recording Timmy G that night, and to go back and watch where he tried to the swivel shot over the keeper, the first ball of the day, and it just missed off stump. Geez, I wish that had bowled him.
Yep.
So that's not just attacking. That was crazy.
Yep. Kamikaze cricket.
Yeah, it is. I get it. You want to play with freedom and all that, but I reckon there's got to be a bit more now. So I just hopefully Australia get up, and at least now England have got to win 2 of the remaining 4. And not have Australia win one. And the way they play, you think there's going to be results. Unless there's weather comes in, there's going to be results.
English weather can be temperamental at the best of times, but it is the best time of year to be there. So, yeah, you're right.
You don't need a huge amount of play to get results. Like everyone kept going on about the women's game. Oh, it's going to be a draw. It's going to be a draw. I'm thinking, folks, you're forgetting how much cricket is still to be played here.
Absolutely.
Turned out Australia win in the first session of the 5th day.
Hold your fire on that one, because we'll come to that one in a minute. Which player do we see scoring big? I mean, if you look at Australia over the last 2 or 3 years, there's been one player that has actually held their spot and held the game in their hands. Obviously, Khawaja was in the first test. You know, David Warner was back here in Sydney. Steve Smith and Head were impressive as well. Who do we see sort of standing up, considering we just talked about Labuschagne?
I'm going to go the very safe, obvious name, Steve Smith.
Steve Smith.
Yep.
I can't disagree with you, mate. I know you watch cricket a hell of a lot more than what I do, and from the outside, I reckon that Steve Smith is probably the man for sure. All right, we move on. Cricket, with the women's cricket, Ashes in England. Australia batting first, all out for 473.
Elise Perry with 99. I understand Greg Blewett did text her welcoming her to the 99 club.
It's not a club you want to be in, that's for sure.
I said, well, she's certainly the best looking person who's ever been in the 99 club, Bluey.
Cool. Annabelle Sutherland, 137.
From number 8.
137 not out. Australia got off to a pretty good start. Most batsmen got a bit of a start, except for Elisa Healy, which was surprising as well.
And was dropped on North in the second innings. So she's made 3 globes in her last 3 test innings.
Yep.
Played with 2 broken fingers, and so demoted herself down to number 8 and got dropped on North, but then proceeded to make 50, which was pretty important in the end.
Absolutely. Obviously, the first innings, England bowled out for 463, getting pretty close there.
Beaumont double 100.
Yep.
It's a remarkable game for individual stats. Like, we'll keep going on this one.
Yep.
So you've got, we've just mentioned Elise Perry and Sutherland. You've then got
Ash Gardner in the first set 4 for 9
She's
in
ended
9.
up with 12 for the
Yep,
game.
yep.
Sophie Eccleston gets 10 wickets. Beaumont at double 100. So Elise Perry has made 99 and 25 and taken a wicket. Doesn't get a vote in the player of the match, which is really rare.
It's crazy, isn't it?
So in terms of just individual stuff, it's it was a remarkable test match.
Charlie McGrath chipping in with 3 wickets for off 12 overs for 24 runs in that first innings.
And bowled well again in the second innings.
And then it was game on. Australia all out for 257 in the second innings. Really delicately poised, with England obviously bowling Australia out a little bit cheaper than what they would have liked. Like I said, Beth Mooney, 85 at the top of the innings there. And then Elisa Healy with 50. So, really the only two notables in that innings. And then, like we said, game on. England.
Well, we got away to a good start, and it turned out that was probably the winning partnership where we went to stumps at none for 80 odd with Beth Mooney and the other opener on her debut.
Litchfield?
Yeah, yep. Sophie Litchfield.
Yes.
Phoebe,
Litchfield.
yes, correct.
Phoebe Litchfield.
Sophie's her sister.
Yes.
Getting Australia away there to a good start. So,
and then obviously with the bowling side of things, we see that Ash Gardner 8 for 66.
She just bowled well and bowled smart, and just realised that it was a deck. Just let the deck do its work. Some balls spun, some didn't.
Yep.
She actually got more wickets with the one which straightened, just went on with the arm. And that couple of good catches by Elisa Healy standing up.
Pretty good economy rate of 3.3. I mean, 20 overs, 1 maiden, 8 for 66. Geez, you take that any day of the week, wouldn't you?
Incredible game for 12 for the game, and just the winner in the end. And let's also remember, has played most of her cricket more as a batsman who could bowl a bit. Now her career's gone a little bit more the other way. As a genuine all-rounder, though.
Australia bowling England out for 178, and it was delicately poised there early on the 5th day, but a couple of early wickets certainly turned the tide pretty well. All right, we move on, mate. State of Origin, as we sort of predicted, Queensland taking the chocolates against New South Wales.
Yeah, just too good again. Fair bit of pressure now on Queensland to win on New South Wales to win the third game. Coach under pressure as always in that situation. But yeah.
Isn't it amazing how Queensland have got the wood on New South Wales at the moment? They seem to be playing above themselves in some respects, but getting that first game win is just huge, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely huge. All right, mate, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got Craig Martin. Some people may not know who Craig is, but we had a very, very good conversation with Craig about golf in general, but also live golf and golf, the PGA Tour, and how they might coexist in the future.
And we may be the one who drops a golf story here. Craig has actually messaged me a couple of times while we've been recording so far, and it hasn't broken yet elsewhere. So we may be breaking an exclusive here on Sports Media SA.
Absolutely. We're going to post part of that interview a little bit earlier than usual because it is breaking news. Yes. So we look forward to that, and by all means have a little bit of a listen to Craig as part of our Local Legends, Past Players, Past Legends segment.
You're listening to the Game On podcast. We'll be right back after this short break. Local Legends.
Well, folks, there's a lot of things happening in the golf world, so we thought it was appropriate to get on a golfing guru, and he can explain what's exactly happening out there and his own career, etc. in golf. Welcome aboard, Craig.
Thanks, Malcolm. Nice to be on board.
So Yeah, give us a brief resume of your illustrious career, etc., involvement in the golfing world, mate.
Okay. My playing career, the irony is sort of 30 years on. I was probably best at about 18 years old. Played a lot of state golf, represented the state and captained the state quite a few times. I won an Australian championship. But coming out of school, I had to make the decision whether I went down the pro path or go to uni. And probably the kicker for me is there was guys that were better players than me who had taken the step, but I could see they were struggling. So I made the decision, 30 years later, I probably regret some of it, but decided to go down the university path. So still played golf at a high level, amateur career, probably a lot of pennant golf, and played in successful Grange Golf Club, Simpson Cup teams, won 5 Simpson Cups. Probably finished my actual playing career at that level around 2000, but I've always been active in golf, and recent years rekindled the golf and by getting involved with professional caddying, doing it in and out of corporate life. But was in the US in 2020, about to embark on a LPGA caddying experience when COVID hit. So kind of that put an end to that. But I've always been highly active in sports right from a young age, and golf, has always been the passion, but certainly footy and cricket and tiddlywinks, anything really sport, I'll watch it.
Yep, likewise.
What was your favourite course here in Adelaide before you embarked on over in the US?
Actually, my home club's Grange, but I think personally the best golf course in Adelaide's always been Royal Adelaide. You got the top 5, nothing comes close to them. Royal Adelaide, Grange, both. Kooyonga and Glenelg. Personally, I probably would rank them RA, Cooey, Grange West, Glenelg, Grange East. But, opinions are like noses. Yep. Everyone's got one.
Yep, exactly.
Good call. And what about in the US? Obviously, you got a chance to have a round on a couple of their courses over there?
Well, yeah. So originally when I went over there, it was in Phoenix, and the first event, I actually caught up and stayed with Nigel Spence, who's a very well-known Australian golfer. He's now nicely set up as a director of golf at the most exclusive country club in Arizona. But I stayed with him for 10 days. Things changed very, very quickly. That was literally when COVID broke. So when the caddying got cancelled, was able to play Phil Mickelson's home course and a couple others, Desert Forest, and had a look around Desert Mountain. I mean, Phoenix is like the mecca of golf in the US. It's totally different with the desert golf, but brutal. You hit the golf ball 5 meters offline and it's a reload because you're not going into the cactus to find it. But it's a pretty unique experience, but amazing. Got to do a few things that weren't planned, like horse riding in the desert and that type of thing. So it was brilliant.
How about for me, the home of golf as a person who isn't a golf fanatic, but the golf tournament that no way and I will miss any year is Augusta. How about have you had anything to do with Augusta, mate?
No, I haven't been fortunate enough to get to Augusta yet, but certainly know plenty who have, and they say, it's a bucket list. You have to go. I have been to St Andrews, but we're talking 20 years ago now. I didn't get to play. I was actually there on my honeymoon of all things, and had to make sure 2 things. Went to Liverpool and saw Anfield and saw Liverpool play, but also St Andrews. Played the Himalayas putt-putt, that was about it, but got the photo of the road hole bunker and whatnot. But yeah, Augusta definitely one day. Yeah. Whether I'm caddying there, that would be the ultimate goal. But even if it's a spectator on a practice day, just to be there. Everyone says the same thing. It's a lot hillier than it looks on TV, but so is any golf course. So,
are there any other golf courses around the world that you desperately want to get to?
Pebble Beach would definitely be a good one. I mean, the US Women's Open is being held there July 6 to 9, and it's kind of known amongst the Australian girls that I'm available. If the phone were to ring, I'd probably hop on a plane to get there, but timeline now, it's getting a bit too close, so it's probably unlikely. But Yeah, Pebble Beach, definitely. I mean, all the famous ones. I'd really love to go to Scotland and just play the British Open rotation courses. Had a look at a couple, but never actually played them. So it's like anything. There's great golf courses everywhere in the world, and especially more and more being built in some pretty unique places, like Kangaroo Island's coming up. So
Yeah.
that's a brilliant project. Obviously, I know Wade Ormsby's heavily involved with that, but the guys who designed that, they've already proven themselves with King Island golf courses. So that'll attract a totally different tourist to South Australia.
Also, Terence, you did have a few big names lined up for caddying. You're a bit unlucky there, mate.
Yeah, caddying is a real fickle thing. It's opportunity and there's no guarantees. It's not like you sign a 3-year contract like AFL. You could be caddying for, it doesn't matter who it is, but you could be caddying for them and all of a sudden you have a falling out over something minor, and it's very much a verbal agreement. You could be get the don't come Monday, but that could happen on a Wednesday. So and vice versa. Like, there's players around the traps that know that I'm back interested in doing some, but probably realistically I won't do any now until the Australian summer starts. So I'll probably look to do Australian Open and Australian PGA. Who that's for, that's, in the next few months, I'll let those that I know are already got gigs maybe coming back from the US. Reading your acquaintance with some guys I used to play against, that would be pretty cool, who have made their millions and still continue to play on the US PGA Tour and lining up to play Champions Tour, which kind of gives away the age group now. So
Did the pandemic rekindle your drive for wanting to be a caddy?
It's interesting. I mean, I came back from the US and I'd really was driven. I'd been in the corporate world, and there was an unscratched itch, I guess, from when I was a teenager, that I really went to uni really to set up my own business and maybe get into golf, managing either a club or a facility or player management whatsoever. When I kind of got back in that world and got accepted, it's very cliquey. They weed out people very quickly, and got accepted by some of Australia's up and coming players. That kind of reassured me that, okay, maybe there's something in this. So COVID put a dampener on that, and then I suppose I've spent the last couple of years doing a reset. Went into the corporate world and realised, you know what, I think I need to go back to where I was 4 years ago or 3 years ago. So I'm sort of pursuing that and seeing where it takes me.
Okay, where for the layman at the moment is Live Golf and the golfing world situated? Because it seems to be pretty hard to follow what's actually happening, and some say it's continuing, some say it's finishing. So give us your view there, mate. I'm sure you've got far more knowledge on that than...
Yeah, sure. Well, as I've said on some other radio interviews, local radio and even nationally, it's an interesting time for golf. It'll make a good movie one day, because you couldn't exactly say golf is well in the news, compared to AFL or Formula One or EPL, NBA, etc. But currently, it's changing daily. From the announcement where the Live backers for the Saudi Arabians, who have injected all the money. Basically, it is a takeover from Live Golf to the PGA Tour, but it's quite complicated. Yep. For someone who doesn't understand golf, the best way to describe it is the Live have come in with an offer that's too good to refuse. The Saudi Arabian or the fund have actually got a war chest of $650 billion US, which is just crazy.
Get you through the week. Yep.
Put it in perspective, like Australia's richest person is currently valued about $30 billion US. So yeah, he's got it. I actually use the analogy. If you look at Formula One, they injected money about 4 years ago to Formula One, and you notice obviously initially there's Grand Prix in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Dubai. 4 years ago there were no Grand Prix in the US. Now there's 4. So their aim, and I'll stay out of the politics and religion, but from a sporting point of view, the injection of money has only made Formula One better. All of a sudden, you've got a captive audience of, what is it in the US now, 300 million plus. They've seen the opportunity with golf to do the same thing. So effectively, moving forward, there'll be a world tour. PGA will run the day-to-day operations, but basically the Saudi Arabians are funding it. So whilst currently you've got PGA Tour, the European Tour, Asian Tour, Live, the way I see it going forward will be, it'll be basically, Live will probably get renamed. It'll probably all fall under the PGA banner, but there'll probably be 3 or 4 events across the world on any given week. So the PGA event will be, the main one. But if there's a Live event, you'll see guys like Rory McIlroy. Now, I quite openly say, it's only my opinion, but I believe Rory will play in Adelaide in February next year.
Okay. Well, that'll be a big get.
That would be a huge get.
Massive. And the other one that I dropped was, and this is not public knowledge yet, but you can break it on the podcast first. You've heard it first. Is there will be a second event in Queensland next year. Dates are still not finalised, but it'll be at Sanctuary Cove, which will allow Adam Scott to basically play with Cameron Smith, because that's his home course.
Yep.
And yeah, that's pretty well locked away. Not public knowledge yet, but it'll come out in due course.
So the Live Golf seems to have attracted a younger audience and a more party sort of atmosphere. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, the best analogy for golf is cricket. You look at Test cricket, and well, I mean, that last Test match was brilliant, and reinvigorate the sport. But Test cricket in 2020. I mean, you were not taking your kids to a Test match. It's for the traditionalists, and golf's probably a bit the same. 4-day events. They're not Groundhog Day, but they're exciting. If you want to go and watch a certain player or, be there for the atmosphere, it'll attract, the golfer. What Live Golf did here in Adelaide is it attracted the non-golfer, the guys that flew into Adelaide with their mates, and there's probably some mates back in Sydney or Melbourne that goes, oh, no, I don't want to go. And then all of a sudden now they're regretting the fact they weren't here.
A bit like gather round.
Yeah, exactly right. I was listening to a lot of, I didn't do any volunteering or anything that week. I was there as Joe Public myself, and it was deliberate because I just wanted to soak up the atmosphere and get an idea of what Live was all about. 2 things I noticed, and I knew some of the players and caddies. The players were so relaxed. They were engaging with the crowd, and they're trying to build a profile for the Live. But it was not a party atmosphere. Yeah, there was a bit of background music, and there was the party hole, which there was aspects of that. Even I go, yeah, okay, don't agree with that.
Yep.
Volunteers getting hit in the head by beer cans and all that. That's not on.
Bit over the top.
And that won't happen. That won't happen next year, I guarantee you. But the actual event. I'll give you a prime example. My girlfriend, never been to golf, wasn't interested. After 2 days, she's like, "Oh, you sound like you're having a lot of fun. Can you get me a ticket?" I'm like, "Of course I can." So she came along for 3 hours, and has already said to me she wants to go to 3 days next year. So she just loved it. She goes, "Oh my God, it's totally different to how I pictured it."
It's an interesting perspective, isn't it? Yeah.
A bit like lawn bowls. Everyone thought lawn bowls is for old people, but when you actually play it yourself, you go, "Hang on, this is a really good game."
Pete's pretty pumped up for that mention because Pete's the big lawn bowl. He's the lawn bowl man, mate. So yeah,
absolutely. Well, agree with you there.
Yeah, well, everyone thinks lawn bowls is for the plus 60s, but when you actually do it, you look at the success of night owls now. Golf's no different. Golf is addictive. Doesn't matter if you're a hacker, never played it before. You hit that one shot and you flush it, you go, "Oh, hang on, I want to do that again." And it doesn't matter if you've played 30 years like me. It's the most frustrating sport in the world. But even on a bad day, all of a sudden who knows? You might have a hole in one.
I'll let you on a little story. I'm a bit of a keen golfer myself, and my grandparents played quite a bit and had putt out in their backyard. And one day, a mate of mine said, "Come on, let's go down to the par 3 and we'll have a go." Happened to be a public holiday, and we get up to the first hole, and there's probably a lineup of about 10 or 12 people waiting to have their shot. People are duffing them, and clubbing them and absolutely nailing it. And my mate looks at me and goes, I don't know whether we can do this. And he goes, you go first. No, I said, you go first. I don't want to make a mistake. In the end, I did go first. Sure enough, I hit the pin on the first hole from about 120 metres away, and ever since then I've been hooked. So I totally get it.
Yeah, well, and actually the hardest shot in golf is the first shot of any round. It doesn't matter who you ask, even you ask one of the pros, they tee it up in a pro event, and the old heart rate's going, and they've got the little shakes going, and it's like, whew, okay, breathe out. I haven't sniped it and killed anyone and all that type of thing. So
well, when I nailed it, I looked around.
To everyone.
I looked around at my mate, and he's just hand in head going, "Oh my God, you made me look like an idiot," because we hadn't done it before, and he ended up getting his about 60 or 70 metres straight down the middle, and I think he was quite happy in the end.
Well, there's an old saying in golf: is every shot pleases someone.
Yep.
So if your mate hits a bad shot, that's pleased you, and if you hit a good shot, it pleased you as well.
Absolutely.
Every shot pleases someone.
So just getting back to the Live Golf, would you liken it to a little bit like what tennis went through and also World Series cricket went through, when obviously there was a bit more money involved and a little bit of a different structure to it?
Yeah, definitely. I think not so much tennis. I think they tried it and failed, but cricket definitely, I have likened it to the Kerry Packer scenario. Now, the issues around golf are totally different to cricket. I mean, money certainly wasn't the issue. The reality of the PGA Tour is the demographic it's attracting was the 50-plussers. The Live guys have really identified, okay, that's all well and good, but now, post the Tiger era, golf is in a fantastic place. I mean, there will always be superstars coming along, like, my prediction, Minwoo Lee, he's Australia's next superstar. I was there when he won his first event 3 years ago, caddying, and now, he just had a great result. I would be backing him for the British Open coming up. That's his style of game, pure ball striker. He's the best ball striker I've actually caddied in a group with. Just the noise off his driving line is unbelievable. And you would appreciate, Peter, that we hit the ball and it goes clunk. Yep. When he hits it, it goes. It's just a pure noise. So I mean, the Live guys are really, really trying to attract a younger audience. Now that it's coming together, what will happen, and it's just come out today, or they've just released, they're going to have a relegation system in Live. So the top 24 players are guaranteed to start next year. But from 25 to 48, there's going to be criteria. So certainly the bottom 5 players will be relegated, but in between 25 to 43, they could be replaced. So that's going to mean the fields are going to be strengthened now that there's no ramifications for, say, if Adam Scott were to play in Queensland previously, he might have got a suspension or a fine. Now he'll be free to come and go. So he might only play 1 or 2 events per year, but being that he's a PGA loyalist, but particularly that Sanctuary Cove event, I would put my house on it that he plays.
And with the obviously the ramifications, as you just mentioned there, how does that factor in when players are trying to plan their year as far as, well, I can play in this event, but I'm not allowed to play in that event? What's the feeling around the golf scene that the PGA were sort of in effect restraining of trade or restraining of players to play in those tournaments?
Well, the biggest the restriction or the penalty effectively for the best players in the world was that the Live golf events weren't counting for world ranking points. So, your guys like Phil Mickelson, Brooks Koepka, DJ, they were all ranked in the top, or maybe not Mickelson, but certainly DJ and Brooks were in the top 10 in the world. All of a sudden they're playing Live events, so all their ranking points from previous years drop out, and they're all of a sudden ranked, 150, 170 and declining. That's had ramifications. So guys, it's only literally this morning, like Lee Westwood will miss his first Open for 29 years. He's played 29 years consecutively. Now he won't play this year. Sergio Garcia, who should be a walk-up start, is having to go through pre-qualifying. The powers to be have got a lot of work to do, and it'll probably all come out later in the year. But world rankings is the biggest one. How do they juggle the different events. So the way I see it working is the PGA Tour events will be like for the elite. Then there might be another PGA event, which whatever they call it. Let's say Category A is called the World Tour, for argument's sake. Then there might be the PGA event, which is more for the guys that are, ranked between 70 and 200. Then there could well at the same time be another event over in Europe, and certainly there'll be an event in Asia. So the Asian Tour will be a feeder tour for the Live Tour, but that's all probably going to get renamed. So it's an interesting time ahead. It's changing daily. My personal opinion, it's fantastic for the sport. It gives long-term investment, and it will certainly attract, anything from 10-year-olds to 30-year-olds who may or may not have played golf before. It'll attract them towards the sport.
And huge news in golf today, mate.
Well, and that kind of, so the President's Cup's coming back to Australia in 2028 at Kingston Heath. Now, that to, just as sports lovers might not sound like much, but that just gives more reinforcement to everything I just said. That means, okay, the President's Cup is still on the agenda. The Ryder Cup will be on the agenda. The players it'll be the strongest teams from those regions. So, Ryder Cup this year will be diminished, unfortunately, despite, the Live guys, particularly Europe, they've come out and said they probably won't consider your Garcias and Stensons and those guys who, whether their walk-up starts or not, they've had a lot of, and Ian Poulter, Mr. Ryder Cup himself, the postman. The Americans have come out, Brooks would have to get a start in DJ, but they're a bit more inclined to have them. But, Australia will have the best players in the world coming here, which I know I certainly have been over to Royal Melbourne when in 2011. The only time I've physically seen Tiger play golf. And, that was a pretty cool experience. Had to go about 3 or 4 holes ahead of him to see him, but, you got be like I'm looking at him right now in my office, Michael Jordan, seeing him live, or I can say, yes, Tiger Woods was within 6 feet of me, and I went full fan child.
The word is he said he saw Craig Martin, mate. That's the word.
Wow, he goes, who's that Smithers bloke?
Yeah, exactly. That bloody Port supporter. He wanted to shoot you. Fair enough, too. Anything else to add, Craig?
Oh, I just think, it's a great time for golf. To any of your listeners out there that have an interest in sport, just get on the socials and start following PGA Tour, Live Golf. But also, coming into the Australian summer, there's going to be a fantastic buzz around the Australian Open and PGA, because now you'll probably find that we will get not just Cam Smith coming back to defend. There'll be the who's who of Australian golf, and maybe a couple of big internationals will make the time to come down, because I can see the Australian Open and the PGA in the future being part of this World Tour.
Are we seeing, obviously, the excitement, I suppose, around Live and PGA, and obviously all the publicity? Are we seeing it at the coalface at club level?
Well, COVID had a big say in that. Golf memberships have gone through the roof, because golf was one of the few activities which met the criteria you could still exercise. There were obviously restrictions about what you could do with flag sticks and everything else, but apart from the lockdown periods in here in Adelaide, we were able to play golf pretty much the whole way through, and particularly interstate. I was just talking to someone in Queensland. He owns a resort up there, and they were doing about 24,000 rounds per year. He said currently they're doing about 37,000. So it's been a massive increase in popularity. Even where you could be a walk-up start to play somewhere like the Glades, or not so much Sanctuary Cove because they've gone really private. But now you got to book well in advance, because I've just recently tried to book some stuff for some footballers, and try to get on. I was like, oh, okay, you can play at 2:30 or you can play at 3:30. And I was like, wow, okay. So the popularity is booming. The women in sport, there's a lot more girls getting involved. Junior golf is really booming. I know ones that I've previously been involved with, but I'm no longer involved officially at Grange, that their junior clinics are basically booking out so kids are getting involved, and that's probably a spin-off they might have been to live golf with their mum and dad, and well, I want to have a go. So they're making it fun. So it's changing the mould of the way golf is perceived in the global environment.
And Malcolm mentioned that you're a footy supporter, a Port supporter. Take us through some of your. I'm sure you catch up with a few of the players every now and then. Take us through some of those exploits.
You might be able to reveal a story from about a prominent Port player from the past, actually.
Yeah, well, actually, I've been at Port training today, just taking my notes for some local identities, but also a Facebook group. But so nothing major to report from today. It was all stock standard. But so 10 years ago, there's a famous Travis Boak story. Now, some people listening to this might go, yeah, whatever. But you can get some of the people involved in this story that will verify it. But 10 years ago, there's obviously a bit of speculation about Boakey going home, and Port were going through a period of hurt. And obviously, don't need to go into that, but we all know the reasons behind it. But I just happened to be going to a conference in Queensland on a Sunday morning. Now, Port Adelaide had played Friday night from memory, and Crows had played away in Melbourne, I presume. My flight to the Gold Coast got cancelled, and I got transferred to Melbourne. So I arrived in Melbourne Airport, minding my own business. I've got about 15 minutes before my connecting flight. As I'm standing there, across the loudspeaker, it was, would the following passengers please make their way to, let's say, gate number 12. Mr. Selwood, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Bartell, and Mr. Scott. And I'm thinking, well, those names are familiar. Yep. And sure enough, running past me go the four guys I just mentioned, all wearing civvies. And I looked up and I go, oh, where are they going? Oh, it's a flight to Adelaide. Now, at the time, I was not prominent, but I would text the radio stations with Michelangelo and Cornsey and Rowie back then. And I'm thinking, well, no, there must be underage championships on. So I quickly looked it all up. No, there's nothing on. And I was like, well, why would they be going to Adelaide on Sunday morning? So anyway, long story short, I put two and two together. I was like, hang on, maybe they're going to see Boakey. Nah, couldn't be that. So looked at the time, and it just so happened it was 11:30 back in Adelaide, which Michelangelo Rucci was doing the Sunday roast at the time, and I flicked him a text message. I said, don't know if there's anything in this, but these four guys just on their way on a flight right now to Adelaide. Are they coming to see Boakey? You know, and that was it. I then hopped on a plane to the Gold Coast, thinking, oh, I wonder what's gone on there. By the time I got off the plane on the Gold Coast, Michelangelo had actually gone to air with it, and just so happened that good old Tommy Wren and the cameraman who I knew, but unfortunately he's had some medical issues since that time, but they just happened to be in the Channel 9 newsroom, and my mate, the cameraman, heard it. Tommy was the young reporter at the time, on a hunch, how about we go down to Adelaide Airport? So they've rocked up unannounced TV crew and basically caught the boys arriving at the airport, and they were more than surprised. But anyway, it was later proven that, yes, they were there to see Travis Boak. So, and obviously that story went national very quickly. So it was quite interesting, and I keep reminding Tommy I made his career. So
fair enough, too.
Yeah, fair call. You've done well. Who you know, not what you know.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's one of those things. That one was a hunch. I mean, and, well, I was right.
No, well played.
And you'd be pretty happy with Port Adelaide at the moment?
No, we won't worry
about
okay.
That. We haven't got enough time? Okay, sorry, mate.
Just on that, I'm pretty happy that Travis is still around.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and he still will play for at least another 2 years. But, yes, Port are going very well.
All right. No, you're definitely in with a chance, as much as I hate to say it, and I reckon Butters is the best player in the game at the moment. So, Craig, greatly appreciated coming on, and I'm sure we will touch base and keep in contact with what's happening in the golfing world.
Yeah, anytime, Malcolm. If you leading into a major event, or if any news comes up, you know where to find me.
Absolutely. We'll give you a call straight away.
Greatly appreciated, mate.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, mate. And, mate, we thank Craig for his time, obviously giving us a little bit of an insight into the Live Golf and how they will coexist in the future.
Yeah, it was fascinating in terms of how it looks like it'll work. So, and I like Craig kept it pretty much in layman's term, explained it, simplified it for
we
us
talked
non-golfing people.
And we talked about this a couple of months ago when obviously Liv was coming to Australia and Adelaide, and we were sort of wondering how it might work. And he's obviously a little bit more closer to the situation than most. And you're right, him giving it us in some layman's terms really did help us out. All right, mate, we move on to Happy Days.
Let's go.
Happy Days.
All right, mate, to kick off Happy Days today, we did talk about this player a little bit earlier, but Mitch Hinge from the Adelaide Crows, 25 years old, delisted from Brisbane, defender. Mitch Hinge has joined Adelaide as one of the first players to move club via the delisted free agency window, signing a 2-year deal at Adelaide at West Lakes after playing 3 games in 4 seasons for the Lions.
He's probably been a bit of a bonus. Like I thought, yeah, okay, becomes a player at the bottom of your list, good, honest battler. I'll give one thing, geez, he has a crack. He physically puts his body on the line.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he got himself injured one game where he went too far with it. Wasn't real smart, the commitment in that regard.
And his efforts against Collingwood on Saturday probably typified what I reckon why Nixie probably wanted to recruit him.
Yeah.
Definitely a player to watch, and I think he's only going to grow with confidence with a bit more game time. And, he's around that 25, 26-year mark, had a bit of experience, obviously, at AFL level, definitely done his apprenticeship at the SANFL level, now reaping the rewards at the AFL level as well. So we wish Mitch Hinge happy birthday. All right, mate, tennis, we thought we'd go back and deep dive here into some results there. Tennis in 1898. We're going back a fair way.
I missed that one, mate.
Yes, so did I. The broadcast didn't quite catch us here, but Wimbledon's men's tennis defending champion R.F. Doherty beats his younger brother Lawrence Doherty 6-3, 6-3, 2-6, 7-5. Sorry, 5-7, 6-1. You can definitely say that the breakfast table wouldn't have been too happy the following morning.
It certainly ebbed and flowed, didn't it? It's a bit like the women's tennis with Serena and Venus later on in that regard. But, yeah, it's always be weird playing against a sibling in that way.
It would be.
It'd be a bit funny.
Absolutely, and obviously back in 1898, kicking off some Wimbledon tradition there.
Yeah, he wasn't a bad player, Doris. He went her up. Yeah.
He did, you're right. All right, we stay with golf, or we go to golf. 1924, British Open men's golf.
I missed that one too, mate.
Royal Adelaide. We had to have golf because we had a golf guest today,
definitely.
So we had to throw this one in. American Walter Hagen wins his second Open Championship by 1 stroke ahead of runner-up Ernest Whitcomb.
Ernest, my dad's name actually.
So, there you go.
Yes.
Walter Hagen was obviously a name back in the day in golf. Obviously very, very popular American, but probably not so popular on the English shores. But certainly a good golfer, nevertheless.
Yeah. So.
Feel free to dig up some info on him if you want. Go Ernie. All right, we move on to boxing. Heavyweight Muhammad Ali confirms his 3rd retirement is his final, but it isn't.
Yeah, isn't that? It's typical of the sport. But I will say of Muhammad Ali being at the G in 98 when he did that lap is the most incredible atmosphere I've ever been in.
Yep.
That in 97 went, well, get this pre-game crap over with, hurry up, get on with the game. And I decided, 98, no, I'm actually going to take this in.
Take it in,
appreciate it, what it was. To be in a crowd of 100,000 people, all standing ovation, it was spine-tingling stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's, absolute champion. Don't get me on there. But that's my big memory of Muhammad Ali.
Yep. Transcends sport, doesn't it? There's players throughout our lifetime and a lot of lifetimes that stand out to you, and Muhammad Ali is one.
Yes.
I didn't obviously see him in his heyday, but, obviously watching footage back, you go, wow, this guy really did set boxing alight for a great number of years.
There was No doubt about that whatsoever.
And again, I think when it comes to the Mount Rushmore, I think unfortunately he sits on top.
Yeah.
There's no one that's gonna beat him. That's for sure.
But like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Absolutely. All right, and then we move on to our final one for today. 1983 baseball. MLB Seattle Mariners bat out of order against the Chicago White Sox in the second innings. Now, this is an interesting stat.
Yeah, I'll let you go on this one.
Well, because we talk about cricket and how you can put a night watchman in, and you can change your order after the start of play.
Yep.
Well, in baseball, you can't. You can't do that. You must do it. But if the opposition don't pick up on it, you don't get penalised.
Okay.
So it's a very interesting little quirk
it is
statistic.
a quirk, isn't it? Yeah.
I thought I'd bring it up considering that, with the cricket in the men's especially, they sent Scotty Boland in to bat as the night watchman. In baseball, you can't change that order. Once you've given that order at the beginning of the play, you need to stick to that order as well. So an interesting little fact, an interesting little tidbit on our happy days today.
No, it is a fascinating one, mate.
All right, mate.
Well played.
Thank you. We move on to extra time, big finish.
Extra time, big finish.
All right, mate, we could have covered this one a little bit earlier, but Thunderbirds, you little beauty.
Yeah, fantastic result. Winning by a couple against the Swifts. So, great result.
Bit of extra time, bit of overtime required to get the result, but yes, go you Thunderbirds. Got to wait, obviously, for a grand final opponent, but isn't it interesting that you've got an Adelaide team in the grand final, you've got a Sydney team playing in the grand final, I think it's the Perth Fever from memory.
Yeah.
If either team, any one of those teams win, obviously, this week, they have to play in Melbourne as the grand final. I mean...
Yeah, it's a bit crazy.
In any other normal scenario, you'd be playing at the...
I don't know why.
Semi-finals, grand final.
Yeah,
it's about money. The money
thought...
got withdrawn from Reinhardt and her company. I can't think of the name.
I would have thought, though, that here would get the biggest crowd. I would have thought.
So. It would have been at the entertainment centre. So an interesting wait and see. But I'm sure for those girls, they would have played it on the moon if they get an opportunity to grand final. It's the first time that the Thunderbirds have been there in 10 years. And we watch it with interest over the next couple of weeks, and we'll certainly be cheering it on from afar.
Well and truly.
All right, mate. AFL, like we do every week at the moment, we have a little bit of fun with the trade, re-sign and retire. This week I've got Charlie Dixon, Levi Casbolt or Ed Curnow.
I'll go retire Ed Curnow, trade Levi Casbolt, re-sign Charlie Dixon.
Ooh, fair call. All right. I'm probably going to be slightly different on that one.
Fine.
I'm going to go retire Ed Curnow, so we agree there.
Yeah.
I'm going to trade... Levi Casbolt and retire Charlie Dixon.
You're retiring Ed Curnow and
sorry. I'm going to re-sign Levi Casbolt and I'm going to trade Charlie Dixon.
But it's always an ambiguous question because you want to know what you're going to get for the trade.
That's true, and this is why it's a bit of fun. And we just throw some names up there. So far, I've tried to sort of link names to positions somewhat that might. Correspond that if you are trading, you might be trading a forward for a forward.
I think Dixon's a more important player to Port Adelaide, though, than Casbolt is to Gold Coast.
And he falls into the category of like Taylor Walker for the Crows. Very, very important player. I agree with you, Dixon.
That's why I'm saying re-sign.
Fair enough. Dixon, for me, is probably just a little bit more about the injury side of things. They go well without him, so maybe it might be time for him to retire, but... Hey, like you said, it's a very ambiguous question for sure. All right, mate, the NBA draft. We talked about the NBA finals the week before. They waste no time, straight onto the draft. And Victor Wembanyama, no surprise, at the number one pick.
No, what they're speaking about him, they're raving on like two-bob watches about him. So
once in a generation talent.
Yeah.
7'5",
7'8" million, yes.
Yeah, something like that. Has all the shooting skills, has all the driving skills, has everything. He's a complete player, and this guy is a once-in-a-talent generation, and you're going to hear his name a hell of a lot more. Victor Wembanyama.
50 minutes and a half forward for the Redlegs on Sunday as well.
We might need it as well, mate. All right, just to finish off, the good, the bad, the ugly, mate. Any good moments from this week?
Look, I think you can almost encompass the Crows-Collingwood game in all aspects there. That it was a great game.
Yep.
The umpiring was terrible.
Yep.
Rory Sloane with a rule, terrible as well.
Yep.
Ugly. I'm sorry. I actually will have a go at the Crows on that one. I reckon it's just a bit dumb, the ripping off of Cox's glasses.
Yes, I knew this was going to come up at some stage.
Yeah, I just thought it was a bit dumb. Dumb.
I don't know whether Keys was specifically going for them. I thought...
I've watched it a couple of times now. I reckon he was.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it in slow motion. I probably haven't watched it as much as... Mason Cox is 6'8" or whatever it is. It looked like he was trying to jump and grab the back of the Guernsey a little bit and ended up getting him. But
maybe what's the other funny? What's happened to the fines for Melee and that?
Yeah. Well, there were a couple this weekend, weren't there?
Yeah, but I'm sitting there going, well, there's got to be 5 or so each from that one. So I couldn't work that out either.
Drop the ball on that one, the AFL.
Yeah, I think so.
My good probably this week was, like you said, the Crows and Collingwood and the Crows coming back. My bad was probably the umpiring and officiating throughout the weekend. And again, don't like to give the umpires a little bit of a clip, but there are a couple of times where I think they missed it quite badly. And the ugly, I'd have to say, I can't disagree with you that the ugly on this occasion was probably the Mason Cox. But I think the ugly from a cricketing point of view was probably the dismissal of Usman Khawaja.
Yeah, again, just quite bizarre by Robinson. I'm sorry. The guy's made 141. Pull your head in.
Yep.
Dumb.
Anyway, we'll leave it there for today, mate. Huge episode once again. We thank Craig Martin for his time and breaking exclusive news for us here on the podcast, which is a new one for us.
Yeah.
We've had our own exclusives, but to have a guest come on and give us one as well was fantastic.
Greatly appreciated.
All right, mate. We'll thank you and promise to do better as always.
We will have a crack.
All right.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at Sportscast SA. We'll see you next time on Game On.